Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 City of Swift Current Mayoral Forum. I am Carla Wiens from your local Swift Current and District Chamber of Commerce. As per previous forums, this will not be a debate format. Our goal is to provide information to our electorate to make an educated decision. Each candidate attending this evening will be given 5 minutes to introduce themselves and present their platform, the order of which was selected at random prior to the live stream. We will have a moderated question and answer session after both candidates are introduced, with each candidate given the opportunity to answer each question in rotating format within the 1 minute time frame. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce Mr. Ryan Nagel from Canuka Thuringer here in Swift Current, who will be our moderator this evening.
Hello, good evening. Thank you all for tuning in. We have some important questions to get to tonight, so we will get on with it. As Ms. Ween said, we picked at random who will begin tonight. And Mr. Bridle, I will begin with you for your opening remarks. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Al Bridle, and I'm running to become the new mayor of Swift Current. First off, I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting this event on, the staff for getting it all ready, and Ryan for moderating it. I do appreciate that. Next, I do want to reach out a bit to the Filipino community in our city here. I've been watching the news and that terrible storm that's hit the Philippines. My heart goes out to you and your families, and I'm sure many other people in Swift Current feel the same way. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, and hopefully your friends and family are safe. Now, in this first 5 minutes, we're going to introduce ourselves, they said, and then talk about our platform. I'm going to introduce myself more and talk just a little bit about the platform, and we'll get with the questions. I believe a lot more of the platform will come out. So first off, I'm 63 years old. I've been married to Deb for going on 9 years. I have 3 children and 3 stepchildren. Together we have 9 grandchildren and a 10th soon to be born in the new year. All of our children live here in Swift Current with the exception of my youngest daughter, and her and her family live in Lethbridge. And for any of you with children, you know how wonderful they are, and grandkids are even better. And I don't have to tell any of you that, but with you with children, just look forward to grandkids get better. A little more about myself. I've been in business here in Swift Current for 35 years in the construction business. Many of you know me. I've built many buildings and homes in the city. My civic, not responsibilities, my civic engagement here in the city is I have been elected twice before to city council. 3 times I've been elected to the school boards here in Swift Current. And the province has appointed me, or had appointed me, for a 4-year term on the regional college here. And the city had also appointed me for a 4-year term at Prairie Pioneer Independent Housing. Now, this Prairie Pioneer Independent Housing is a seniors housing complex on the south side of Swift Current that the city owns, as well as the RMs, villages and towns in the southwest, as a joint venture. It's been ongoing for 40 plus years, I believe, and it's much needed and a wonderful facility that I do want to maintain and continue to maintain. Now, for those sorts of things, that all totals up, if you add it all up, 24 years of public service on boards and councils. And I'm not trying to brag, I'm just telling you what I have done in the city. Now, the other big volunteer part of my life in the city is soccer. I've loved soccer. Anybody that grew up here in the city and is under 45 years old and older than 17 will remember me likely on a soccer field as a referee. For 20 years, or almost 20 years, I ref soccer. I coached for a number of years, and I also sat on the executive. So that's a little about me. Now, when I look, I kind of look at myself and I say, at 63, why? Or you may look at me and say, at 63, why would you want to become the mayor of Swift Current? You should be hanging up your soccer cleats, hanging up your skates, and going into a good retirement. Well, maybe I should be, but I have some concerns about some things in the city. And so things like our growing debt, which I'm sure you've seen in the paper I've talked about and on Facebook. Things about our escalating taxes. And those are a couple of the things. But I don't want to focus on, I don't want to focus on a bunch of the bad things that I believe are not bad things, but things that have happened in the city. I want to look to the future. For me, as the mayor of Swift Current, I want to pretend sort of like, let's say we're driving in our car and looking out through a windshield. You look out through the bright, sunny forward thing and you can see all sorts of things in the future, the things in front of you. But in that car, you also have a rear view mirror. And that rear view mirror is very small, but every so often you need to look through it. So for the future, for me, I want to continue to look forward and forward thinking, but every so often just glance in that mirror to see where we have come from. I would like to thank all my supporters and for their support. And I look forward to answering the questions a little later. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bridle. Mayor Pro, we'll now turn to you for your 5-minute opening remarks.
Well, good evening and welcome to the 2020 Mayoral Forum. I'd like to begin tonight with a very simple thank you to our local Chamber of Commerce, and that's Carla, Mike, and the board for giving me this opportunity to talk directly to you about what we as a community have accomplished during these past 4 years, and what I believe are the most important issues facing us as a community as we navigate these extraordinary times. I hope that in the next hour, I can explain what we together have accomplished and how we plan to build on those collective accomplishments with that same sense of hope and optimism that makes me so proud to be your mayor. Well, first off, let's start with what I believe is the most important to all of us, and that's the quality of life. Swift Current, you know we have a strong quality of life here, and there's lots of pieces that make that up. I'm reminded back in 2010 when we as a community came together for the Women's World Curling. For me, that was an eye-opener. Myself and my wife, Leah, we had a chance to volunteer every day, and we heard from people all over the world share with us how special Swift Current was. It was so impressive that the Worlds came back in 2016. Now, just this past year in 2019, it was the year of the volunteer, friends. We had Hockey Day in Canada with Ron and Dawn. We had the Western Canada Summer Games. That was the largest event in our Southwest's history. We're hosting the CCA finals every year. We just signed another 5-year deal with them and the under-17 World Juniors of Hockey. Now, in hearing that was a lot. But Swift Current, we only bid on the Western Canada Summer Games. Those other 3 events, they came to us. Swift, we asked the community to help, and it's the Swift Current way to stand up and to help. And this overwhelming support from our businesses, from the public, and from near and far, it was awe-inspiring. And I'm grateful to say that I had the privilege to be a volunteer along with my wife, Leah, and son, Luke, and be a part of all of it. Now, Swift, you already know this, but we do have the best parks and walkways in our province. We've actually got more green space per capita than any other city in Saskatchewan. Big thank you to our city parks teams that do an amazing job to maintain them. Swift, we have a professional fire service and we have an RCMP contract. Now, we as taxpayers can rest assured in knowing that we are living in the safest city in all of Saskatchewan. And I'm grateful for those men and women that go out of their way every day to keep us safe. We strive to have good, clean, and affordable drinking water and wastewater. We strive to have a strong partnership with Saskabilities for recycling. And we work hard every day for clean roads and sidewalks. This means we have a snow removal budget, a strong one, and an annual asphalt and sidewalk budget. Now, I know we can always do more, and we'll work together to do just that. You know, we ask our community, what do you want? And where can we go? And one example of that was last year when we asked about our transit system. Our community told us they want a transit system. And we continue to work with the users so that we can make it the best one that it can be. Just last year, we had 30,000 rides, and we learned that the people that ride, they use the service to go to work, to go to appointments, and to get around town. Swift Current, we have a very vibrant arts and culture sector here in our city with partnerships with the Lyric, Blenders, Windscape, Long Days Night, and our, I think, world famous Market Square. Did you know we also have a Shakespeare Festival that kicked off last year to record attendance, and it'll be continuing on in 2021. That's not all. We also have a museum and an art gallery and a library, and we have an airport in Swift Current. We've also got pools, and we've got hockey rinks, both inside and outside, and we do all of this while maintaining an affordable way of life. We as a city, we've got two levers to generate income. That's taxes and utilities. Well, our power rates are the same as any other city in Saskatchewan, period. Our water bills are some of the lowest in the province, and our property taxes are the lowest. It's a testament to those before me that have served in this role, and I'm grateful for that. And if you're not sure, check out realtor.ca. Find a house that looks like yours, about the same price as yours, and have a look. Now, Swift Current, growth has been a very big factor for these last 4 years. We saw $500 million of new growth in our community over the last decade, 1,300 business licenses. Canadian Federation of Independent Business, they rank Swift Current as the #1 mid-sized city in all of Canada for entrepreneurship. Check out growwithswiftcurrent.ca, and I hope all the candidates watching will have a look too. Friends, our city is growing while maintaining a very affordable way of life. And so, to close tonight, the same way that I began, with a simple thank you to everyone in our community for the outstanding job that you've done in meeting the COVID pandemic head on, by listening to the experts and by caring about each other's health as well as your own. We always accomplish more together, and that's why we remain among the least affected communities in Canada. So I ask everyone who can hear my voice, please stay safe, keep up the social distancing, but without being socially distanced. Friends, you know me. I've been your cheerleader and advocate for Swift for the last 4 years, and I will be moving forward. I'm humbly asking for your support to continue on as your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perreault. As Ms. Ween stated, we'll now move to the question and answer portion of the evening. I will pose a question and each of the candidates will have 1 minute to answer. So we'll turn back to Mr. Bridle for the first question. And the first series of questions relate to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Bridle, what is your view on implementing a mandatory mask requirement with the desired outcome of improving confidence within the community?
Well, I believe masking is something that we should leave to the health professionals, our provincial doctor, if he recommends it, or if our local health authorities recommend it. I think it is something that we should implement, but I'm not a doctor. I don't think anybody at City Hall is a doctor. And so I believe we should be leaving that up to health professionals to tell us that we need to, or we recommend an implementation, or we need an implementation.
Thank you. Mr. Perreault?
Well, since March the 18th, when we had our very first city COVID meeting to try to decide about closing our city, we looked to the province for guidance. I was fortunate enough to be on daily calls with the government of Saskatchewan, as well as with all the city mayors. And we together listened to the province. So I would definitely have to agree with Mr. Bridle. We look to the province for guidance and to the experts for guidance. And we as a city will follow the direction of Dr. Shahab, Premier Moe, and of the Ministry at the SHA. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now turn to Mr. Perreault. What are your top 3 priorities/plans to stimulate the city's economy and get people back to work during and after the pandemic?
Well, thank you for the question. First off, we're going to continue to grow. As of today, we're at 18,744 residents here in Swift Current. Mr. Moderator, that's more people than we've ever had in our history. Throughout the summer, I had the privilege of doing ribbon cuttings and grand openings. That was throughout COVID. I am so proud of our business community and the good work that they've done, and we'll continue to strive to work with them. We'll do this through our Grow with Swift Current website. We'll do this by hopefully attending trade shows in the future and going back to that. I'm going to continue to work with our ag sector. We saw big growth in companies like ETG Commodities and G3, and we're going to continue to work with them. Priority 1, of course, is to grow those businesses and grow here in Swift. The other thing we're going to do is work with the public. I heard, I know it was Mr. Bridle, as well as we've heard from some of the other candidates, to look to the public and to ask them where they want to go and what they want to do. We've done that in the past. We've done that through our community planning, and we'll continue to do that. And lastly, I believe we're just going to continue to work with the province to see what we can do and how we can do better. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Mr. Bridle?
I have some of the same responses as Mr. Pro, but I do believe we need to look at our ag community, what we do best around here. The ETGs of the world, the Simpson seeds, some of our manufacturing like S3 and ag growth. These are things that we need to rely on because they are in our community and they're local businesses, and we need to rely on them for growth. And we need to also see if we can attract more ag-related or ag-valued businesses for our community. The other thing is oil and gas, which maybe is not popular, but in the east of this country, but oil and gas has been a big job driver in Swift Current, and we need to find ways, and I'm not sure how, but we need to find ways to encourage the oil and gas industry to set up their shops here in Swift Current, not in the RM, but here in Swift Current, so we can get the local taxes there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next topic will be the candidates' platforms to promote and grow the city of Swift Current. So I'm going to turn to Mr. Bridle to start. Growth of Swift Current's population has been a priority during the previous term. What strategies will you implement to grow the population of the city?
Foremost, for growth, we do need jobs. Without jobs, people will not be moving to our city, and we've had some new jobs in the past bit, but in the future with COVID-19 and the world unsteady, unsure of what's going on, we need to make sure we promote jobs in our city through agriculture, through oil and gas, and through whatever other things that we can get here. And then also, we have to maintain our taxes. Our taxes, even though Mr. Perot say they are the lowest in the province, they are very, very large compared to what they used to be. Back in 2009, the city collected 6.5 million in taxes, and in 19, they collected 18.9. That is money out of our pockets, both citizens and businesses, and we have to make sure that those taxes do not go up any higher so that the businesses can keep their money in their pockets to invest in jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perot.
Well, it's not a secret. We've worked very hard these last 4 years to grow Swift. During a pandemic and during some of the economic crisis that we've seen in the oil and gas sector, we actually saw growth. Again, 18,744 people that call Swift Current home. More people here than we've ever had, more business licenses than we've ever had, more kids in schools than we've ever had. That's what we've seen over the last 4 years, and that's what we're going to see moving forward. Our growwithswiftcurrent.ca website highlights agriculture being our #1 enterprise, and we work hard to build those partnerships. I've had the good fortune of traveling with ETG and with other companies to try to bring them here, and it's working. We've also seen a resurgence in renewable energy, and that's wind and solar in partnership with the province, and hopefully we'll see more. Our oil and gas sector, I believe, will come back and will continue to be advocates. I had the privilege of speaking before a Senate committee on that. And manufacturing, as Mr. Bridle suggested, with S3 and with ag growth, but also with companies like Blackbridge Manufacturing. We are going to continue to find opportunities for our community because everything below our ground and everything grown on our ground, the world wants today, and they're going to want even more tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving to our next question, a more specific question. Many young people leave the city after graduating high school, and the city has a difficult time of attracting post-secondary graduates. As mayor, how will you specifically target young adults to relocate and remain in the city? And Mr. Perot, we will start with you.
For sure. Well, I think one of the first ways is Great Plains College. I'm very grateful for that partnership between the province of Saskatchewan and right here in Swift, and the growth that all of the programs there have seen. If we can keep them going to post-secondary here, or at least do a couple years first, I believe they're gonna fall in love again with Swift and want to come back. We hear that from so many young families that have left and gone to those bigger centers. When they come back, they share with us how nice it is to be in a place that's safe, that's caring, how nice it is to be in a place where we all work together for common good. And we see that in our events. We see that at the sports rinks. And of course, we see that on the ball diamonds and many other spots. I believe that by continuing to find that special sauce, which I think is what Swift Current has, this is the sense-making city. We're able to offer an affordable, very strong quality of life, and we're able to do so during a time of growth. We're going to do so by having lots available for residential, commercial, and industrial, which we have right now, and continuing to find opportunities for people here in the Southwest. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Bridle. I'll turn it to you.
Well, I'm going to agree with Mr. Pro again about Great Plains College. It's a huge draw of young people to our community. People come from other places and come here and stay here and get some of their first years of university and some trades classes, and that's great. But some of the things we should look at, I mean, we talked about jobs before. We need jobs here, and how are we going to get jobs? We need businesses to invest. And one of the things, when I've talked to some businesses, one of the issues we do have in Swift Current is our housing is very expensive. And while it is true that the city has some lots available for housing, lots of our lots need to be a little bit cheaper. And maybe we could develop the things like Ashley Park School and St. Joe's Schoolyard into less expensive lots so that young families could afford to move here and build their own home here in Swift Current, as opposed to the expensive lots up behind the hospital or even by the Elmwood Golf Course. So I think we need to make sure we have lots affordable that they can build on, and we also need jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridle. I'll again turn it to you for the next question. What benefits can residents expect from a targeted 35% population growth over the next 4 years?
Well, I guess a targeted 35% population growth, I would like to believe it, but I'm sorry I don't. I think with COVID-19 and the way the economy is, we will not see that growth. But I do believe the benefits of any growth are more jobs, of course. And with more jobs, it should be less taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perot.
Well, I do believe we're growing. We've seen it every year, year on year, for the last, I think it's 12 or 13 years. I do believe we're going to see it because we're offering the most affordable quality of life across Saskatchewan, across all cities. So this should be the desired place to be. As far as jobs go, I believe we're seeing more and more jobs through creation, through companies like ETG, and through the ones that Al or Mr. Bridle mentioned as well. That agriculture sector is going to be, I think, our saving grace throughout all of this. Again, the world wants and needs exactly what we're growing, and will continue to want and need it even more moving forward. We will work together with new manufacturers. We'll continue to work together with new processing facilities. And I think we're going to continue to see this positive growth that we have been experiencing. In talking with the province often, Swift Current is a desired location for business right now. We're offering very strong business incentives and will continue to moving forward. Those were set by councils prior to me, and they deserve all the credit for it because I think we're seeing a lot of benefit from those strong business incentives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perot. So for the next question, what is your plan to ensure the needs and concerns of current business owners and large private employers are being met? And how do you intend to assist the growth of these businesses? And I'll turn it to you, Mr. Perot.
Well, I think I heard it from one of the candidates. You know, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we should respect that relationship. I try very hard to meet with businesses and residents here in our community. It's not just the reason why I'm out and about at all those events. It's because I genuinely want to hear from them. I've had the privilege of touring many of our facilities here in Swift, not just during a campaign period, but for the last 4 years. And I'm encouraged to hear about investing and investments here in Swift Current. It's why I think we've seen $500 million of building permits over the last 10 years. And it's why I think we're seeing 1,300 business licenses, more than ever, here in Swift. This is a very strong entrepreneurial community, and I'm forever grateful for that. That's risks and chances that they're taking, and I'm very grateful that they're choosing to do that, not just before, but also during COVID. And thank you again to a very strong Chamber of Commerce and a strong tourism division that works hard to bring business here to Swift Current. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bridle?
Well, I too think that we need to listen to the businesses, and we also need government to get out of the way of business growth. And I also agree with the incentives we have in place that were put in many years ago. They definitely help expansion of business, and we need to continue those same business incentives. But we need to get out of the way of business and allow them to grow. And we need to make sure we're not taking more money out of their pockets with higher taxes. We need to leave that tax in their pocket so they can grow. And the other thing we need to do as a city is we need to make sure there's affordable land for businesses to grow. I talked to a business owner just the other day, and he was looking at some land the city owns, and he decided against purchasing it because it was going to cost him $460,000 for 2 acres, and he found that much land elsewhere in the city for about half that cost. And then it made sense for him to grow in the city in this other land. But that land up on number 4 highway there, it is very high price for any new businesses going. And I think we need to make sure that we only maybe do a cost recovery and not make money, because right now it looks like we're trying to make money on that. And we do need to make it affordable for business to be able to buy that land for development.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bridle. And we'll begin with you for this next question. So the last question related to current businesses in the city. How do you intend to attract new business activity to the city of Swift Current?
Well, I've already said it. We have to keep the taxes as they are. We cannot increase them, because the higher we increase the taxes, the less likely the people are going to want to come here and start businesses. We have this RM around us, the RM of Swift Current, that we have a great relationship with. But in the RM of Swift Current, the business taxes, they tell me, are more attractive than in the city, and the land is definitely cheaper. And so then we need to keep our taxes going no higher. And we also need to make sure, again, that the businesses that come to Swift Current have availability of good, reasonably priced land, not cheap land, but reasonably priced land, so it makes sense for them to build here and not in the RM around us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perot.
Well, I think it's going to be to continue some of the work that we've started. growwithswiftcurrent.ca. And again, for anybody watching, please check it out. You might not know this, but that initiative was a national award-winning economic development initiative. And kudos to the city team that was able to build on that and put it together. It's something I'm very proud of. To me, it's a tool. When enterprises are considering relocating or starting up, that tool, I think, highlights Swift Current and all the advantages that we have, that I think I've shared prior, to be able to continue to grow. Regardless of what you hear, we do have the lowest taxes in the province, period. We did a comparison not just across residences, we also took a fast food restaurant here in Swift. We looked at the same one across the board. We saw Yorkton, for example, was 3 times higher. That's just a fact. We do have the lowest taxes in the province. We do have serviced land available, both residential, commercial, and industrial. We are ready to grow, and I continue to be inspired by the new businesses that come here and share with me how happy they are to work with our city's development department. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So that was in relation to businesses as a whole, but how would you specifically intend to create new jobs in the city? Mr. Perot?
Well, it's businesses that create jobs, and it's those entrepreneurs, and it's why we've been ranked #1 across mid-sized cities in the country for entrepreneurial initiative. We see that here in Swift. We are the hub to the entire Southwest. Although 18,744 strong in the community, we know that we service about 55,000. This is the hub where people come for retail, and this is where they come for their services. As far as bringing new businesses here, we're going to continue to be advocates out on the trail, on trade shows. We're going to continue to work with our provincial government, which I'm grateful to have a very good working relationship with. And I'm going to continue to work with those businesses that are calling, looking to invest right here in Swift Current. I'm so excited for that, and it's why we're seeing, again, I hate to say it one more time, but a record number of businesses here in Swift. Again, that's during a global pandemic. Record number of kids in schools and a record number of population. Can't take all the credit, of course. It's our city and it's our council and it's our team, but it's each and every one of you, the residents, that have chosen to invest here in Swift and continue to grow in Swift. And I'm humbled and so grateful for what you continue to do every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bridle?
Well, this is a very similar question to what we've already answered, but in order to have businesses grow, we do need to get out of their way and allow them to grow. We need reasonable tax rates and no higher than they are right now. And we also need reasonably priced property. And we have a great city with many wonderful people, and there are people looking for jobs. And so we need to make sure that when businesses come to the city, we can show them all the assets we have, and including the things like business incentives, and let them see these things and let them, businesses, make the jobs, because city cannot, or governments cannot make jobs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bridle. And I'll turn it back to you. Do you think we have a reasonable amount of residential and commercial lots for sale in the city, or will development continue?
At this time, we have a very reasonable amount of residential lots. The only problem with them is that they are very high priced for normal families. If you're a family that makes, each family member makes 50 or 60,000 a year, you cannot afford to build a new house up behind the hospital or in Cypress Point. It's just too expensive. And that's why I'd suggested before, we developed the old schoolyards in the middle of our city into cheaper residential lots, the old 50 by 110 or 120 feet long, to allow our families, our younger families, to develop those into homes. Now for commercial land, we have a tremendous amount of commercial land on number 4 Highway South, but I think the price there is way too high. For a business myself, if I was looking for 2 acres before I could even start, I'm not sure that I want to put out 440,000. If it was 300,000, it may be affordable. And so we have lots, but they are expensive. And I believe that is a detriment, because that land has been vacant for several years with nobody on it. And I don't see anybody in the foreseeable future going out on that land.
Thank you, Mr. Pro.
Thanks so much, and a great question. We do have quite a few residential lots for sale. It was a goal and a strategy set quite a few years ago to always have at least 3 years of inventory. For those that have been in Swift for quite a few years, you'll remember a time when there was a lineup outside of City Hall for a very limited amount of lots. Now, as of right now, our lots are priced at cost recovery. We're one of the few cities that actually do that. So again, when we talk about affordability across all cities, we're actually selling our lots at some of the lowest prices, especially if you compare it to Yorkton. So we've got very reasonable priced lots in Sask Valley, cost recovery. It costs money to get them serviced. We've also got premium lots over at Cypress Point. I'm proud to say we've got 25 of those lots sold, far more than what we thought we would have sold by now. We've also got a private developer, Wallace Construction over at Sweetwater Estates, and I know he's got some lots for sale. That's on our residential side. Now on our industrial commercial over on Highway 1, again, very competitively priced and priced at cost recovery. I would urge any of the public that are hearing parts of this to please check out the prices across Saskatchewan, because again, we're offering very affordable quality of life for all residents. Now is a great time to consider building right here in Swift. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pro. The next question is, will you pursue attracting and hosting large events in the city, and why? And I'll turn it to you, Mr. Pro, for that question.
Well, thanks for that. And the short answer is absolutely. We have seen the community rally together and be so proud to be able to host those events, the ones I mentioned before with World Curling, with our CCA finals, Western Canada Summer Games. We saw, of course, the under-17 and hockey. And I think we've got an opportunity to bring even more here. It's a challenging time through COVID. I am going to be working together with a national service to see what kind of opportunities fit Swift Current. I think we've learned that the World Curling for the women's fit Swift Current. They had record revenue, they had record attendance both times. And our curling club and many of the curling clubs across the Southwest were the benefactors of that. And the people of the Southwest were the benefactors of a great experience, both as a volunteer and as a patron. I believe we need to work together to figure out what we can bring, how we can do it, and how we can do it together. And I will absolutely continue to be a cheerleader and an advocate to bring those events right here to Swift Current. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridle.
Well, I too believe we should continue to bring events to Swift Current, like the World Curling. but I think we should take a serious look at these events, and if it is going to cost the local taxpayer hundreds of thousands of dollars, they should not be here. The World Curling events, it did not cost the taxpayer anything to host them. I understand they made lots of money, and I think that's a great idea, and the event is great. And many of the other events we bring, whether it's Windscape or things at the Lyric Theatre, all that sort of things, they're wonderful. But I don't believe we should be going for large-scale events that are going to be costing us as taxpayers hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and just continue to drive our debt up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridle. And to close off this section, I will turn it back to you, Mr. Bridle. Define what it means to you to be an ambassador for the city of Swift Current.
I think I know what it means to me. It means to, and I hate to use the word cheerleader, but it means to make sure people understand what Swift Current's all about and show them how wonderful Swift Current is and all the advantages there are here. The people, the biggest advantage we have is our people. The safety, we have this wonderful police and fire system that we'd already talked about earlier, and the people here can be safe. When I talk to immigrants that have come to our community, and they say it's wonderful to have their children just play on the street and not have to worry about them. They couldn't even do that in their homes where they came from. And there's many cities in Canada that are the same way. So as an ambassador, we need to just continue to let people know what a great place it is to live, a great place to work, and yes, and so just a wonderful place. And that's what I would do.
Thank you, Mr. Perot.
Oh, thanks so much. I actually think it's a big part of the job of the mayor to be an ambassador, a cheerleader, and an advocate for all things Swift Current. I've had the great fortune of serving in this role for the last 48 months. And I know I've been called a yes man at times. Well, the truth is, I've always said yes to every single meeting I've been asked to have. Always said yes whenever a business, a not-for-profit, or anybody wants a chance to help promote something happening here in Swift Current. I've tried very hard to put the city first. You know, all the things that I do, and I'll continue to do that, of course, moving forward. It means working together and alongside entities like our Newcomer Welcome Center and welcoming all of the newcomers that are coming through those doors, over 2,500 since they started about 11 years ago. I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for all the people here in Swift Current, 18,744 of them. And we're continuing to grow, and I will continue to be a cheerleader and a champion for all things Swift Current, because that's one of the main jobs of this role as mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perot. So for our next series of questions, we'll be focusing on the city services. So Mr. Perot, I'll start with you. There's not been a noticeable improvement in transit routes or times despite the purchase of 3 new buses. How are you going to increase ridership and improve the city's transit system?
Well, thanks. Great question. And right now we've got more riders than we've ever had with 30,000 rides. Together with our team here at the city, I'm not a bus engineer or a route engineer. We've got people here in our city that are working very hard alongside with all of the user groups to try to find what's the best fit and what's the best route that's going to get more people riding on these buses. I believe it's a very important part of any community, and it's not a secret. Transit costs money in all cities, from Swift Current to Toronto to Halifax and everything in between. But it's a service that is offered, and in Swift Current, what we're finding, it is for our most vulnerable. It's for people so they get a chance to go to an appointment that they might not have otherwise had an opportunity to do that. It's for our newcomers that we just talked about so that they have a chance to have a ride to their job. It's a very important part of Swift Current, and I think we can continue to make it better and stronger. And I'm proud of 30,000 rides, and I'll be even prouder when we hit 35. So thanks so much for the question.
Thank you. Mr. Bridle?
Well, I look at the busing and Mr. Pro is correct. It does cost a tremendous amount of money. I believe it's over $1 million in the expenses last year to run the buses in the city. And for 30,000 rides, you do the calculations, that's very expensive per ride. And I wonder about, because this was supposed to be a trial run from about 4 or 5 years ago, but the old system of dial-a-bus seemed to have many riders on it too, and you could phone them up and they would come to your residence and pick you up and take you to your appointment or take you to work. So I am not sure about the future of the buses in Swift Current. We do need busing, but how we put together busing and what it costs us is something that we need to take a serious look at and ask the people that are riding it and ask the people that are using it and see if dial-a-bus, which is cheaper, would work better, or if we need to continue with the bus routes that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridle. So I'll turn it back to you. In regard to the integrated recreation facility, would you support the project if it depended upon tax increases or levies? And what other initiatives would you lead to see this project through?
Oh, that's a tough one. With our debt sitting at 85 million right now, I do not believe we have enough left on our debt that the province says we can borrow. It's 110 million that we're allowed to borrow. I don't believe there's enough left there for us to borrow the money and build it. I know other cities have had a levy on an integrated facility, and at some point, if we hadn't spent all this money that we have, we may have enough money in our lending capacity to have an integrated facility. But for right now, I think it is many years out. And I do know we need to save like Assiniboia did. They got an integrated facility with this last federal money, but they had saved and fundraised $6 million. They got $6 million from the province, and I believe 6.5 from the feds. So I think if we are going to want it, we're going to have to put some money aside for the next few years. We need to talk to our residents and see if they want it, not if Al wants it, not if council wants it, but see if our residents want it. And if it's something they want, then we need to form a plan to save some money and then also form a plan to pay down debt so we can borrow more money for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perot.
Well, thanks for the question. You know, since I've been on council, this is something we've been talking about. We're a city of 18,000 plus, and we're the only city of that size that doesn't have one of these integrated facilities. You know, we, the city of Swift Current, chose to pay in the past for water and wastewater wholeheartedly on the backs of the taxpayers. It's not the case in many of the other cities across Saskatchewan. They were able to partner with their federal and provincial governments. We did that because water and wastewater are important to Swift Current. Now, when we talk about an integrated facility, we are looking for the province and the federal government to partner. This past year, I thought we put our best foot forward, and we partnered with over 100 of our municipalities that surround us because they saw a benefit. And we got many letters of support from them and over 100 from other community members. We put forth what I thought was the best plan moving forward, and unfortunately, we were unsuccessful. I will continue to work alongside with our federal and provincial counterparts because I'm confident we're going to see it, but it's going to happen with partnerships with all of our partners across the Southwest, through the municipalities, but also through businesses and through people. And we will work together. I believe we're going to see an integrated facility in the next term. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perot. This flows nicely into our next topic, which is city spending and budgeting. So Mr. Perot, I'll start with you. What are your top priorities for municipal spending over the next 4 years?
Top priority, of course, is clean water and good, clean wastewater, making sure that we can turn the lights on and turn them off when we're expecting to, making sure our roads and our sidewalks are safe, making sure the pipes underground are working. Now, the truth is, all of that together is infrastructure. Infrastructure is one of the biggest needs of all of the cities and all of the towns and villages across Canada. A lot of this is over 100 years old. We need to work together to be able to identify those needs. We've done so through an asset management plan, and we'll continue to be looking at that. I really believe that an integrated facility is going to be a part of our city moving forward. We need to plan, we need to budget for it, we need to work together with our federal and provincial counterparts because it only works with funding from all of the levels of government. I also believe that we need to continue to invest in all of our recreation facilities because that's what's bringing people here to Swift Current. People are proud to be here in Swift. Got more ice surfaces than anywhere else. When you add up our inside and outside, those outside rinks get very well used. We've got some beautiful fields where all of our kids can play, and of course our arts and culture sector. Building a budget is lots of pieces together with an infinite amount of requests and a finite amount of resources, and I'll work together alongside council to be able to make a fair and balanced budget moving forward, as I have for the last 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn it to you, Mr. Bridle.
Well, one of my priorities, and has been a priority even of the existing council, is safety in our community. Our firefighters and our police force, making sure they have proper facilities and proper training. I know our police are RCMP, but make sure our firefighters have proper equipment and training to continue to make our community safe. And then, as Mr. Perot mentioned, the infrastructure, roads, streets, sidewalks, these are all important. Wastewater, clean water, they're very, very important. But if I'm going to pick one particular project I'd like to see happen in the next term, is our swimming pool has been left for a few years because people are talking about the integrated facility, and our indoor swimming pool could use a facelift. And I really believe, I believe in the next 4 years that we need to give it that facelift, because I do not think we'll get an integrated facility in the next 4 years, no matter who is in power, because I just can't see that we have the capacity, borrowing capacity, to do that. But so for me, the rinks, all the parks, the rinks, they're all important. We need to continue to maintain them. But if we're going to pick one we need to fix, it would be our inside pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridle. So for our next question, how will you continue to fund new and existing city services without raising taxes? And we'll start with you, Mr. Bridle.
Well, I think a lot of you have looked around our city and seen things where we think money has been wasted. And I mean, it's always easy to look back and be critical, but there are still some things where we feel money's been wasted. And I really believe that things like, and I call it the concrete maze on the north end of Central Avenue, I believe that was a lot of money spent that should not have been spent there. There was cheaper ways to make that intersection better. There's a pond at Cypress Point that I did talk to Mr. Perot about, and he said it was in the budget, so they got it built. And yet it's funny, it's the only pond in any part of the city. There's no other development that has a pond in front of it, and that was a lot of money spent. So I think in the future, we have to be careful how we spend our money and not spend it, and I'm gonna say frivolous things like the pond, and possibly frivolous things like the sign on City Hall, or taking the park across from City Hall and removing perfectly good asphalt and putting paving stones down. That money should have been spent on our sidewalks on Main Street, where people with disabilities have a hard time walking because there's so many holes in the sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridle. I'll turn it to you, Mr. Perot.
Oh, well, thanks so much. And I think Mr. Bridle knows that Cypress Point is all paid for with lot sales. So it's interesting that he would bring that one up again, but that's okay. I believe we're actually going to be able to do this through growth by seeing $500 million of new investment right here within our city borders, brings a new tax base to Swift Current. It's not a secret we kept FTs low. And we're also trying very hard to find efficiencies within City Hall and within our infrastructure. We try hard every day, and I give credit to our city teams. It's not an easy job to go out middle of the night when the power's out, and it's sure not an easy job to go down in our sewers to make sure that we've got good wastewater. This is hard work, and I'm grateful for all those that continue to do this. Now, the question was, how are we going to be able to do this? Well, quite frankly, if I'm elected again, and I'll do the same as what I've done in the past, is work together with the 6 councillors that'll be around me, along with administration, to be able to build a fair and balanced budget moving forward so that we're able to accomplish all the things that we're able to do. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perot. The next question is, do you have any current ideas or plans to begin paying down the current debt load of the city? And I'll turn it to you, Mr. Perot.
Well, thanks so much. And you know, I've got our annual financial statements right here. I know Mr. Bridle's got a copy as well, and I'm hopeful that all the candidates do. It's one thing to look at the first page. It's a whole other to go back throughout all of the numbers. And the truth is, all of our debt is serviced and all of our debt is budgeted for. The longest debt that we've got listed is 20-year debt. So it's just like a mortgage that all of us have, or many of us, I think, have. It's an ability for us to borrow today for the life of the asset. And that's what we've done. That's what prior councils have done as well. Now, a large part of our debt today has to do with property development. We'll see that go down as we're developing property and getting it sold. but it'll continue to be a land bank to be able to sell at a cost recovery system to people coming to Swift or looking to grow and to invest in Swift. The truth is, debt is not a dirty word. If it was, none of us would have houses and none of us would have been able to drive cars and trucks. It's a tool. It's a tool in order for us to have the assets that we have today, and we'll continue to move forward with them. Again, I encourage everyone to read the financial statements up right all the way back to 2009 are on our city's website. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. Mr. Bridle, your response?
Well, debt is a requirement of modern life or even ancient life. We need debt to buy our homes, to buy our vehicles. We need debt in the city for large projects like sewer treatment plants, water plants, and an integrated facility if that would be the case. But debt is a dirty word in the fact when you're paying too much in interest, like this last year we paid 2.4 million in interest, and that's a lot of money that went towards interest that could have went towards some of the other things like possibly the retrofitting of our existing pool. Now, if we look at our debt since 2009 or 2008, every year our debt has continued to go up. It's never went down, even though we pay money off. And it's like I call it the Rocky Mountain debt. We pay off 3 million, goes down, we borrow 5, we pay off 2, we borrow 6, we pay off 3, and there's only 1 year in the last 12 years that the debt actually went down. So I'm concerned because when I look at the financials, every year it has continued to climb. From 2009, it went from $35 million in debt, if you take the hospital debt out, to 85 million last year. Last year, we paid down 2 million in debt and we took on almost 5 million in debt. So that is what my concern is.
Thank you, Mr. Bridle. So I'll turn this next question back to you. Over the next 4 years, what new revenue generating initiative will you champion as mayor?
I honestly don't know what new revenue generating commitment we would champion as mayor. We have an electric utility that makes us 5 million a year to help keep our taxes down, and that's wonderful. It'd be nice if we were Medicine Hat and we could have natural gas, but we're not. So I don't believe that we should be generating any more revenue other than from our taxes and our electric utility and the sale of our water and sewer and the garbage and all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perot.
Well, thanks so much, and it's a good question. I think it comes back to the fact of growth. We've only got 2 tools, and one of them being utilities, and I already shared we've got some of the lowest water rates. We want to keep it that way. The other one being taxes, we've got the lowest in the province, and we want to keep it that way. And so the only tool that we're able to grow to get more revenue is growth. It's having more people in Swift, it's having more businesses in Swift, and it's having more homes and more buildings. You know, just in the past couple of years, so Cypress Point, the one that was highlighted, a new tax base of just over $60,000 annually of property tax that's coming in. As we continue to have lots available for sale, commercial, industrial, and residential, and being inviting and welcoming to business through our award-winning growwithswiftcurrent.ca, I believe that's how we're going to continue to grow. That's how we're going to be able to grow our tax base. And that, I think that's the way we're going to see our revenue numbers go up. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. So for these last series of questions, we will focus on each of the candidates' role as mayor. So I'll turn it to you, Mr. Perot. If you were again elected mayor, where would you focus the majority of your time?
Well, right now, you know, I've had the good fortune of being able to come to City Hall every day. My other office is just next door. I've put in a little bit around 40 hours a week for the city for the last 4 years, and happy to do that. So a big part of it, of course, is being able to be a champion for Swift and being a part of so many of the things that are happening. Another is being open and welcoming to anyone that's looking to come and see me here at City Hall. I think that's a big part of it. And moving forward, something that I think we can do better, especially through COVID, because that's been a real challenge on council relations. I'd like to see us being able to work together as a council even more. So I'll continue to be a part of committees and boards across the Southwest and across Swift Current, and continue to look to find opportunities moving forward to be able to bring them here to Swift Current. That's been the most fun, and I'm very, very grateful. I think the best example I can show you is just to the east of Swift Current is G3, which I was proud to work on to be able to bring here together with the RM. And ETG Commodities. Friends, you might not know this, the largest red lentil splitter in all of Canada happens to be right here in Swift. And they're looking to grow. And we're going to grow with Swift together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bridle?
Well, I too believe that a lot of hours need to be spent at City Hall. And I know that Mr. Perot talks about being a cheerleader, and I would like to think I would be more of a coach. We have a number of tremendous city employees, our outside workers, our inside workers. We have a great electric utility, our water and sewer. And I think we need to coach those people and let them talk to us and give us ideas about how they can save us money to make our utilities more efficient and bring more money into the city through that way. And also, I would be spending time talking to businesses like the G3s of the world or the ETGs. And I have spent a lot of time working for many of these different businesses through the years. And so that is something that I would want to do. I don't have the advantage that Mr. Perot has, that he's been mayor the last 4 years, but I would want to do the same thing into the future. Deal with businesses, talk to businesses, and promote our city, but also coach our city employees and also our council to do the best they can do for our citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Bridle. And I'll turn it back to you for this next question. What changes would you make to improve the transparency of council and improve communication about decision-making with community members?
Well, one thing I would like to happen in Swift Current, it would be very nice for both myself and council and all of Swift Current to have a better news media in the city. I do know that Mr. Perot has mentioned Yorkton several times, and I know CTV have partnered with Yorkton to put a little Yorkton piece on the nightly news, and that's something we could definitely have here. For council itself, I think that council needs to get together in the old committee structure, even committee of the whole, and sit down and discuss things as opposed to just have council meetings. Because right now, a lot of council meetings, there's no discussion, we see nothing at council. So a lot of those decisions must have been made behind closed doors. And committee meetings are public meetings, but they are meetings where you're not sitting around a council chamber, you're sitting around a table discussing things as councillors and mayor and bringing up new ideas and better ideas. And therefore, I think we would come up with some good and innovative ideas to take this city forward, and it would be more transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll turn it to you, Mr. Perot.
Well, thanks so much. One of the very first things I did when I joined as mayor was I made sure that councillors spoke first. I reserved the right to speak at the end so that each councillor had a chance to speak to whatever item was on the floor. We went around the horn, and we do so at the end of every meeting. That was a change, and I'm proud of that one. I believe it ensured that each council member had a stronger voice. We broadcast all of our council meetings live. Everyone's got a chance to watch as well. People are welcome to come and attend them. I haven't seen Mr. Bridle too many times over the last 11 years that I've served, although he could have come should he have chosen to. All of our minutes are available online. All of our financials are available online. The truth is, I believe we are transparent. And if the public wants to see more, we're more than happy to. We're trying very hard to be able to provide as much information as we can to the public to show that I believe council and prior councils have made the best decisions they can with the information that they have in front of them, while still having, I believe, spirited and lively discussion. Again, Mr. Bridle would have had to attend a meeting to have seen that. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. And I'm cognizant of the time. Do we have time for one more question, Ms. Weens? One more? And I'll turn it to you, Mr. Perot. How will you promote diversity and inclusion for various groups in the city?
Those are two very big words, and I think there's a lot of parts that make it up. I was very proud, alongside our Lieutenant Governor Von Schofield, to have the first rainbow crosswalk in Swift Current. She was here to proclaim it alongside with me, and that was a hard thing for us to do. It shouldn't have been, but it was. I worked very hard with a pastor in town that helped advise and give us some guidance. And thank you to Pastor Kevin for that. Worked alongside our council. And I think the best analogy I got was we want our best for our children, regardless of any of those type of stigmas. We want our children to have a place in Swift Current. And I believe that all kids do have a place here in Swift. I believe all people have a place in Swift. We as a council have a responsibility to be inviting and welcoming. To me, there's so many facets of that. I'm very proud to say I've been at the Welcome Center quite a few times, and I'm grateful for that, for the work that Ikashan and her board continue to do. Very proud to be a part of the Filipino Christmas parties and all the things that they've celebrated over the last decade. I'm proud to say that Swift Current looks very different today than it did 10 years ago. I believe Swift Current is a very inclusive and diverse community, and I'm thankful for that. I think we're better for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mr. Bridle?
Well, actually, an interesting question. On the school board, we were talking about this just last week and deciding how we could do that at Chinook School Board and make it a better place for inclusivity and having everybody involved. And the one thing that came up at that meeting, and one thing that I liked, was we do need to talk to our community more. And Mr. Pro is correct. We're way more inclusive today than we have been in the past. The old idea about rednecks and all that. But I think we have a ways to go. And I think the way to get there is not by council telling people what to do. I think as a community, we need to get together on a town hall meeting or some focus groups and think how we can, as a community, can make it more inclusive for all nationalities and all orientations of people. And that's something I really believe strongly in, that we definitely need to talk to our community and come up with a focused plan for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bridle. And thank you, candidates. I will turn it back to Ms. Weens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nagel, and thank you, gentlemen, Mr. Perot and Mr. Bridle. Anyone watching, please reach out directly to each candidate for further questions. We've done our best to get through as many as we could this evening, and we know there are many more out there, and both gentlemen would welcome your questions and provide you answers. Thank you as well, Ryan Nagel, for moderating this evening's session to ensure that we get through as many questions as possible. We much appreciate your time. Thank you to the City of Swift Current, and in particular, Michael Boutillier, for providing our tech support and streaming platform this evening. As well to our local media partners, thank you for sharing information with the residents of our city. Want to remind everyone that advance polls are open now at the iPlex from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. until November the 5th, and November the 9th is Election Day. Please visit the City of Swift Current website, swiftcurrent.ca, for polling stations and to print out your voter registration card to perhaps save you some time in the waiting lines. I would like to thank everyone on behalf of your local Chamber of Commerce, all of you joining up this evening, Mr. Bridle and Mr. Perot. We wish you both the best of luck in the upcoming election. Enjoy your evening.